One of the problems that I think we have in healthcare is the same problem in many organizations. And that is the fact that we often underestimate the creative potential of our people. And because of that, we fail to nurture them within our organizations. And yet, you have to realize that over 60% of the things that are invented, that are created, the improvements, don't come from management councils, don't come from CEOs of hospitals. They come from people in maintenance. They come from people in dietary, if they're nurtured to think that way. I'll never forget a number of years ago when I was assistant administrator at Lincoln General Hospital in Lincoln, Nebraska. The National Healthcare Association came out with this grand campaign. It was called the Bad Guy Campaign. And it really was very effective. The idea was to find ways for individuals within our organizations to come up with ways of cutting expenses, to see if we could lower the cost of healthcare. And it was a simple campaign. They'd come up with ideas, they would submit them, and when they submitted them, we would give them bad guy bucks or coffee mugs. And they could go down to the cafeteria and get a free donut or coffee or whatever it was. They didn't get anything great, but it was sort of fun. Initially, there were a lot of us, including myself, who didn't think it was going to work very well. At the end of 3 months, we tallied up the savings, and it reached over $340,000. About 8 years later, I had left hospital administration and gone into public speaking, and I was speaking at an annual employees banquet at a healthcare institution in Iowa. And I'm sitting at the head table at the banquet, and I'm going through the program just to see where I am and what time allotment there was, and I saw this thing, the Bad Guy Campaign. And I turned to the CEO and I said, "My gosh, did the National Healthcare Association bring back this campaign? We had it about 8 years ago." Oh, he said, "No, they didn't bring it back. We just kept it." I said, "You kept it?" I said, "How'd you do that?" He said, "Our employees wanted it. They had a lot of fun. They thought it ought to be an ongoing search for new ideas to save money." And we said, "Yes." And they did. He said, "Let me show you something." And he reached in his pocket and pulled out about 6 checks to individuals. And they weren't for coffee mugs or rubbered money. They were substantial checks. One of which was going to a maintenance man who happened to be at coffee one day sitting next to a table with some nurses, surgical nurses in neurology. And he heard them complaining the doctors had such a hard time keeping this one instrument in place as they were doing this delicate surgery. And he sat there and that old "I wonder if" kicked in. And he turned to one of the nurses and said, "I might be able to put something together that would solve that problem." They sort of looked at him, I guess, suspiciously, but they said, "Well, let's check it out." And they invited him into surgery. He watched the operation. He saw what the problem was. He went back to maintenance. And he was a very creative guy, and he got excited. And not long later, he created a prototype. A prototype that the hospital went on to sell the patent for and made hundreds and thousands of dollars. He received a check for a little over $2,000. We have an opportunity in healthcare, as in other businesses. We have a responsibility in healthcare to stimulate, to search out, and to challenge our people to be more creative. Because there's a wealth of creativity out there to be discovered.